Greta Thunberg warns world leaders that "we will not let you get away with this." Addressing the UN Climate Summit in NYC, she said, "This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?"
Here's a summary of the article.
Teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg has told world leaders, "You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words." Addressing the United Nations 2019 Climate Action Summit in New York, Greta Thunberg said, "This is all wrong." In an emotional and charged speech in New York, she reprimanded those who she accused of ignoring the science and are too slow in their approach to tackle the world's contributions to climate change. U.S. President Donald Trump, who has previously described climate change as a hoax, was a late addition to those attending the summit. The 16-year-old's talk was followed by a speech from Pope Francis via video link, who questioned whether politicians were working hard enough on tackling climate change. Her speech came as the United Nations Special Envoy for Climate Change told Sky News commitments made under the Paris Climate Agreement are now no longer enough to limit global warming to acceptable levels. It comes after millions of people around the world took part in a global climate strike, inspired by the teenager.
This post received a score of 86,729, with an upvote ratio of 75%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
If you really understood the situation, and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe. Oil companies were some of the prime movers behind spreading climate change skepticism, much as tobacco companies did with cigarettes. They also built oil platforms taller to account for rising sea levels. They know. They not only fail to act, they do their best to ensure that action won't be taken, so they can continue to rake in massive profits.
Please look into the 1980 ExxonMobil report where they studied and predicted, correctly so far, the effects of climate change.
In the last century, extreme capitalism has also deliberately destroyed public transit, dooming us all to ever more miserable daily commutes, and deliberately tainted nutrition studies, leading to the obesity and heart disease epidemic that has killed millions upon millions. I bet no one here can say they don't know anyone who died of heart disease or another obesity-related ailment. Doctors are still telling type 2 diabetes patients to eat a minimum number of carbs daily, way too much for someone whose insulin sensitivity is already shot. Capitalism is totally better than all the alternatives because infinite economic growth is totally possible on a finite planet.
Maybe one day people will come to accept that we are all flawed, semi-advanced primates, and we will draft our laws governing businesses accordingly, with the long-term health and well-being of people being an unacceptable sacrifice on the altar of capitalism.
The climate crisis kinda proves to me that if any one human trait will result in the downfall of humanity, it will be selfishness.
Selfishness of the few, stupidity of the many. Even in this thread there are people that have nothing to gain by denying that climate change is real, and here they are defending the oligarchs. Edit.
They have their ego.
Yup. And rather than admit they've fallen for oligarch-sponsored propaganda, they double down, not realizing that they too will pay.
What bothers me most is something you said. They are doubling down on money-hungry politician propaganda and claiming, the other side, backed by scientific consensus and years of research, is propaganda and lies. I mean, holy projection, but come on people. Just because you feel a little bit bad about eating steak doesn't mean you should refute everything forever.
What's that smell? You smell that? Opportunity. No money. I smell money.
Question: we all know nobody is going to listen to her. None of the big oil companies and the big businesses are suddenly going to change their way of operation to save the environment. So what is the realistic expectation of how the world will look like in the future? Let's say 30 to 50 years in the future, if we assume that only a few people actually care about global warming and the rest of the world continues to ignore it, what will happen? Would it lead to war? Mass famine? Death of millions of poor people who can't afford fresh water? What would a normal day in 2070 look like?
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.